Gary can be seen running through a subway station trying to get out. He gets to a locked door and breaks it open. Once inside, he heads to a window, only to find it bricked up. Suddenly, all the lockers in the room open, revealing their mirrors. Gary walks up to the giant mirror in the room and says he wasn't trying to escape. The mirror begins to shatter and he wants to clean it up, but breaks off a piece. He says he's sorry and goes to pick up the piece, but his mirror image stays in place. The man sees the piece of mirror in his hand in the reflection, and the mirror image uses it to kill him. An alarm beeps and a man turns it off, then gets out of bed. Ben looks at himself in the mirror in his bathroom and drinks a crushed up tablet in his water. He says goodbye to his sister Angie and tells her everything will be fine. Ben walks over to an abandoned estate and the security guard Lorenzo lets him in. They walk toward the burned building and Lorenzo explains that he worked there when the fire took the building out. He tells him that even after 5 years the owners are still in a legal battle with the insurance company. Before the building was a store, it was a hospital that closed down in the 50s. The company expects security to patrol the place every couple of hours, but it usually remains calm. Lorenzo says that the cosmetics department gives him the creeps at night because there is no electricity and too many mirrors. Ben asks who polishes the mirrors and the old guard tells him that was the man he's there to replace, Gary, who spent the entire night cleaning them. On the tour around the place, Lorenzo asks why Ben left the police force, but he doesn't feel like answering that question. Lastly, he shows Ben to the trailer for the security. Meanwhile, the mirrors in the building come to life. Later, Amy comes back home and asks her housekeeper Rosa about the kids. She tells her that they're upstairs with Ben. Amy walks up and finds them playing and talking. She asks to talk to him and they go to the bedroom, immediately starting to argue. He tells her that he hasn't had a drink for 3 months and that he has a new job until he can get reinstated in the force. Amy doesn't believe he can change, but he tells her that she wasn't there for him when he killed someone on duty. She gets angry, telling him that she was the only one that ever believed in him, while their son listens to them argue. He apologizes, but they continue to fight. He kisses her and it's clear that they both care a lot for each other still, though she pulls away and tells him that she can't do that anymore. That night, Ben is at work, still getting used to the place. He finds a bottle of whiskey in the cupboard, but puts it aside. His alarm rings and he goes out on patrol inside the building. The inside of the burned store looks like a true nightmare come to life. Ben arrives at the cosmetics department. He sees his reflection in one of the mirrors and cleans some dirt off his uniform. Before he leaves, he notices a handprint on the mirror. He lights it up again and tries to clean it, but it looks as if it's stuck from the inside. The entire mirror has handprints going way up to the top. A door opens in the reflection, but in reality it remains closed. Ben still goes over to check on the real one, but keeps checking the reflection. The door leads to a steep staircase, bringing Ben down to a flooded basement. He turns the lights on and the door in the reflection slams shut. The next day, Ben is at home taking another tablet, when his sister shows up and tells him not to take them anymore. She's concerned about him and he tells her that even though he doesn't like his new job, he needs it to take care of Amy and his kids. He doesn't want to sleep on her couch for the rest of his life. She tells him that he should think about getting a daytime job. Ben looks back in the mirror and his face looks like it's melting. Angie comes back and he tells her to get out and leave him alone. He looks at himself again, but everything looks normal. Ben thinks he's losing his mind. Later, he's on another patrol at work, looking over the burned mannequins and the mirror-filled walls, when he thinks he sees someone behind him. Ben peers into another mirror and places his palm to match the print, when it shatters and cuts him. Looking back at it, the mirror looks unbroken and suddenly a burning woman appears behind him that vanishes when he turns around. He looks back at the reflection and sees people in flames, but nothing in real life. A fire starts and Ben bursts out in flames, but in reality there is nothing wrong with him. He puts himself back together when he notices that everything is fine and he finds Gary's wallet on the floor. Ben gets back to the trailer and goes through Gary's locker. He cleans out his wound and dresses it. Ben checks Gary's wallet and finds a note inside, with the word Essaker written on it. He's back inside the building and goes up to the second floor to the cosmetics department. When he gets there, he checks the walls and suddenly hears a woman screaming in pain. He places where the sound is coming from and runs towards it. He enters a room looking for the woman, going through every part of the place, but he can't find her. Suddenly, he hears her again and sees her reflection in the mirror, but doesn't see her normally. When he pulls the changing room curtain he sees nothing there, so he drags the mirror closer and places it in front of the room, then shines a light on it and sees the woman again. The burning woman can only be seen in the reflection. Ben's son Michael wakes up screaming, and when Amy goes over to comfort him, he says that there is a lady screaming in the mirror. She tells him it's just a nightmare and leaves his room, leaving the door open. She goes to bed and when she turns off the TV, the woman appears on the screen and back in Michael's mirror. Later, Ben is at the bar where Angie works and is telling her about what he experienced. She thinks it's just the stress from everything that has been going on in his life. But Ben keeps talking about mirrors and how they are everywhere. He feels like the reflection is looking back at him. Angie tells him to talk to someone and pleads with him to get some sleep. Ben is sleeping when someone knocks at his door. He gets a package from Gary. It contains articles about the fire in the store and one on the man that confessed to the crime of setting it on fire. Ben arrives to work as Lorenzo is leaving and he wants to talk to him about what he's been seeing. However, Lorenzo tells him that the police has been there and has informed him about Gary's death. They didn't tell him how he died. Lorenzo tells Ben that they'll send someone over to fix the leak in the basement. Amy is at work overseeing an autopsy when she gets called into the lobby to meet Ben. He asks her to show him Gary's body because he needs to know how he died. Ben tells her everything and convinces her to help him. They walk into the freezer room and the pathologist informs them that he killed himself, but the police is still investigating. The pathologist tells Ben that he used a piece of mirror to do it. He looks at the body and his reflection says the word Essaker. Ben also asks for his file and manages to convince Amy to help him. He looks through the photos of the crime scene and shows Amy one where the weapon can be seen. Only the reflected weapon has blood on it, while the real one has none. Ben has started to think that the mirrors are showing something that isn't really happening, making us do things that we don't want to do. Amy tells him not to talk like that if he wants to get reinstated. He says that he's seeing things and feeling what they're showing him. She asks what medication he's taking to stop drinking. Ben shows it to her and she says that the drug has a lot of side effects. He apologizes for bothering her and thanks her for trying to help. Later, Angie is getting ready to take a bath. She takes off her robe and walks away to the tub, with her reflection staying in the mirror. As soon as she's in, the reflection begins to tear her face in two, making the same thing happen to Angie in reality. She dies in the tub. Next, the police is there investigating her death. A detective walks into the bathroom and drains the bathtub. He reveals her face and sees the damage. Ben comes home and when the officers restrain him from going inside, the detective comes out of the apartment and hold them back when he wrestles out of their hands. When he sees the body, he vomits in the sink. Ben is crying over her body in the mortuary, while Amy talks to Larry and tells him that Ben would never hurt his little sister. Larry says that his story checks out in most parts, but that his colleague has told the cops that Ben was planning on leaving the job. He tells Amy that they will let him go because they have no reason to keep him. She goes over to him and offers him to stay with her and the children back at the house, but he doesn't want to put them in danger. Ben thinks that the mirror came after Angie, but Amy misunderstands and tells him to tell Larry everything. He doesn't think either of them will believe him about what he thinks has happened. That night, Ben is in the store and he's trying to break the largest mirror. When it doesn't work, he takes out his gun and shoots at it, finally making a dent. But the mirror heals itself. He keeps banging on it and drops desperate next to it, asking it what it wants from him. The mirror writes him a message, the word Essaker. Later, Ben asks Larry to run the name for him, because he couldn't find it online. He's doing research on the store and the fire, but he has trouble connecting the dots. The man that set the fire in the store kept claiming that the mirrors are guilty. Larry calls him back and tells him that he didn't find anything on Essaker, so Ben tells him to run the name of the arsonist, Terrence Berry. He tells Ben that he's dead, but gives him the name of the asylum where he was kept. There, Ben talks to his doctor, who tells him that the patient thought there were two separate realities. He shows him the interviews with Berry. During the interview, the man says that the mirror killed his family because he couldn't find Essaker. Ben fears for Amy and the kids, so he goes over to the house and takes out all of the mirrors, scaring Rosa and the kids. When he can't remove one from his daughter's room, he paints over it. Amy arrives because Rosa called her and she's pissed at him when she sees what he's doing. She asks him to leave and he says that he'll do it after he covers the mirror. Amy doesn't understand what is happening to him. She tells Ben that Michael is acting strange because of his influence. He takes her outside to show her what is happening, but when he shoots the mirror, it doesn't heal itself back. The kids are looking at him through the window, scared about what is happening. Amy begs him to put the gun away and come inside, but he drives off. In the car, he can't calm himself down and almost has an accident when he sees Angie in the rearview mirror. He avoids the accident and destroys the mirror. Ben goes back to the store and walks through the basement looking for something. He finds an old sign of the psychiatric wing of the hospital that was there before and locates the place where the water in the basement is coming in. He breaks a hole in the wall and enters a room with a strange contraption inside. He steps inside the contraption with a chair in the middle. He sees the restraints on it and then notices that it's surrounded by mirrors. Ben keeps looking at his reflection and suddenly it shoots at him. Later, he calls Larry again and asks him to locate the patient employee manifest for the hospital that used to be there. Ben tells him to look for a patient or employee with the name Essaker. Before he hangs up, Larry tells him to keep his head down. They meet that night and Larry gives him all of the medical files he could find on Anna Essaker. Larry found the files in their evidence storage, because they were a part of a cold case. The girl was only 12 years old when she was committed. She died along with the other patients in the hospital, who killed each other on the same night. The hospital got closed down after that. Their doctor was arrested, but he killed himself with a piece of the cell mirror the next day. Ben goes back home and investigates Essaker's files. He notices that she's blurry in all of the pictures from the hospital. She was committed for schizophrenia with delusional and violent behavior. The only picture he finds from her that isn't blurry is from the year before she died. He finds another file that says that she was discharged from the hospital 2 days before the massacre. Suddenly, he hears cracking behind the covers of his TV. He removes them and shows the reflection Anna's photo. Ben realizes that Anna is still alive. Meanwhile, his daughter is brushing her teeth in front of a mirror that Amy brought back in the house. Michael is talking to someone in his room, sitting in front of the mirror. He stands up, but Amy sees his reflection still in the mirror. When the child leaves, she goes over to the mirror and the reflection smiles at her. Amy calls Ben and tells him to come to the house because she is very scared from what she saw in the mirror. She believes him now, and they are both seen covering up every reflective surface in the house, from mirrors to windows and TVs. When they're done, he says goodbye to the kids, then to Amy, who is sorry that she didn't believe him. Ben goes to Pennsylvania to find Anna. He turns on a dirt road when he sees her name on the mailbox. Ben arrives at the house and recognizes it from the photo. He knocks on the door, and when no one answers, he goes to the window when a dog scares him. A boy walks out asking what he wants, and Ben tells him that he's looking for Anna Essaker. He tells his mom what Ben is asking for, and she comes out of the house asking what he wants from Anna. Ben lies to her that he's writing a paper on schizophrenia, and she sends the boy in to tell his grandfather that someone is asking about his sister. The old man takes him down to the basement where they used to keep her because her fits were too violent. He tells Ben that they had every priest, healer and doctor from all over the county, but no one could help her. Ben steps in and sees the state of the place where the girl was kept, as her brother tells him that Dr. Kane was the only one that answered their cries for help. He didn't believe in demonic possession, and he thought that he could help her. Ben asks the brother where she went after the hospital, but he thinks that she died there. Ben tells the man that he knows she was dismissed earlier and finds out that she stayed with them for a little while. She left because a strange thing began to happen with the mirrors in the house, while the girl was totally cured. He asks him where he can find her, and the brother tells him that she was sent in a monastery where mirrors are forbidden, so they can't get to her. Ben gets to the monastery and asks to speak to Anna. Ben tells Anna that he came there to ask her why the mirrors from the hospital are so desperate to find her. He begs for her help to save his family. Anna tells him that the mirrors are windows to our world. What wishes to find her is what is imprisoned inside them. Dr. Kane's therapy consisted in making the patients remain in a mirrored room for days on end to rid them from their schizophrenia. But he was wrong. Anna wasn't cured. The demon that was inside of her passed on into the mirrors and has been collecting the souls of those it has killed since. She thinks that if she comes back there, it can use her as a vessel to cross the threshold back to the real world. Ben tries to convince her, but she won't do it. He tells her about all the people that were murdered and shows her a picture of his family so she can understand who he's trying to save. Meanwhile, Michael's reflection opens the door to the room where Amy and the kid are. Ben calls Amy to tell her about his progress, but she suddenly realizes that Michael is gone from her side. When she looks through the door, she finds the house flooded. Ben tells her to be careful of the reflections in the water. She sees that the mirrors have been scrapped off too. Ben tells her to find Michael and stay away from the water and mirrors. Suddenly, something moves behind her and Amy drops the phone. Ben storms into Anna's room and threatens her to come with him. Simultaneously, Amy is turning off all the pipes, and when she reaches the one in the bath, she sees Michael in the reflection, then gets pushed under the water and begins to drown. At the same time, the daughter hears her voice calling her and she enters her room. When she walks inside, she sees her mom in the reflection behind her. The reflection grabs her and starts cutting her, when the real Amy comes inside and pulls her away from the mirror. The reflection is angry that they escaped. Amy hides her daughter in the closet and tells her not to move from there no matter what she heats. The house keeps flooding. But Amy walks down to the first floor to find Michael. He's scraping off the paint from the mirror with a knife. Michael tells Amy not to be scared because he just wants to play with them. He runs away with the knife and she goes after him, then sees his reflection under the chair, thinking that he's hiding from her. The reflection cuts her and runs away. In the meantime, Ben takes Anna back to the building. As soon as they enter, things start appearing in the mirrors all around. They go down to the basement and Ben gets her to the chair because she keeps her eyes shut. She tells him to strap her on the chair and that there is no other way to save his family. Back at the house, Amy finds Michael sitting in the water. When she approaches him, his reflection looks at her, then pulls him under the water. Amy can't get him out, so he drowns. Anna tells Ben to leave her inside and begins to pray as the demon pushes through the mirror reality. She opens her eyes and all the mirrors in the building explode, killing her in the process. Michael is released from the water too, and Amy performs CPR on him until he spits out the water. The mirrors in the building are completely destroyed. Ben walks inside the mirror chamber, but doesn't find Anna there. He hears something crawling on the walls and the demon appears in possession of Anna's body. Ben shoots at it, but it keeps dodging him. Eventually it attacks him and throws him out of the room, then drags him around the basement. Ben struggles with the demon, but manages to push her onto a gas pipe. He shoots at it and the whole thing goes off in flames. The building begins to fall apart as Ben tries to escape it. The demon attacks him again, but he pushes it off and it gets caught under the rubble. Ben gets caught as well. Fortunately, he pulls himself out of the rubble and walks outside, where a cop car is waiting. Policemen and firemen pass by him, but no one notices him. He walks over to Lorenzo, but sees that his badge is the wrong way round. The signs on the cars are the same way. He finally checks the wound on his hand, but it appears on the wrong one. Ben walks outside, but doesn't see his reflection. He puts his palm next to a mirror and his print appears on the other side.